Hello, hello, my hey, I got something to say, women around the world and men that support us. Oh boy, all I have to say is you're in for a treat because Linda is in the house and Linda has answered, I think, all the questions you've ever had in life. Okay, maybe not all of them, Linda.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility, Sandy.
All I know is when I sent you her information to some of my peeps, we got pages and pages because boy, did this subject it touched your heart. I think it more than touched your heart. You were like, wait a minute, where has she been all my life? I needed this. So we're gonna jump right into it, Linda. Oh, what?
Mhm.
I better back up. How are you?
I'm doing great. I don't know where anybody else is. I'm in Ellicott City, Maryland. It's warm. There's no snow on the ground. I think it has stopped raining. So to walk outside and not have to have a coat on and go like this is a real treat, at least for a few days anyway.
I'm in the Philadelphia area. It's 79 degrees
Yep,
today. I'm like,
yep,
everything is definitely melted. So we are
yep,
good to go.
yep.
We're going to start with your power statement. Know your value and do not negotiate it. Why did you pick that? What does it mean to you?
Well, I'll start by saying it's something I learned over time. I've been in practice for 45 years, essentially running my own business no matter where I was. Um, and you realize over time that you have a value. Somebody's reaching out to me because I know how to do something they don't. I know how to do something better than they can. I know I do something that they don't want to do. And there's a value to that. And it took a while for me to recognize that if you want me to do it because I can, because I'm better than you, because I'm more efficient than you with that subject matter, there's a price associated with that. And certainly in my career, I've had people say to me, which is a legal career, well, I know somebody who can do it for less, or, so and so charges X amount. And my answer is, okay, well, good luck with that. If your circumstances change, you can feel free to come back to me. But anybody who especially sells a service has to recognize that service has a value. And if somebody wants you to negotiate your value, first of all, they don't get to have you. And secondly, if they don't recognize your worth as a client, it's going to be a problem that lasts longer than that initial conversation. So, no, what I have to offer is valuable. And if you want it, you have to pay for it.
Okay, before I even ask any questions, I'm going to start right here. I cannot tell you, this has been the number one question on every woman's mind and every networking event I've been at recently. So let me just tell you a little bit about Linda so you know where we're coming from, and then we'll go answer your questions. Linda has practiced law as a litigator for 45 years. 45 years she's been a litigator. For 3 years, she was an executive management. My husband's a lawyer, and I was telling him this. She's like, oh. For 3 years, she was an executive management managing 280 lawyers in 19 offices in 10 states and was part of the 6 member management committee. Okay. There's a whole podcast about that, but moving on. She has a passion for community and gives time and energy to numerous organizations and boards to include Chamber of Commerce, Rotary. Is it Respite? I've never heard of that. Respite Retreats?
Respite retreats,
Like
yeah.
resting? Does it mean resting?
It's really for cancer patients and their caregivers, and it's an opportunity to step away from the diagnosis for a minute if you can and go do arts and crafts or music or yoga or massage. So it is a respite retreat.
I love that. That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yep.
Also, Business Women's Network of Howard County, which is how I met you. Shout out to Brenda McGregor.
Brenda.
And family is first in her life.
Yes.
Okay. So now you know she's got the cred. Let's go back. I apologize in advance. I will not be getting to all these questions. but I'll try to get as many as I can in. They want to know, in your 45 years, was there a spot where you go, okay, I came into my own value. Now I'm really have arrived, that you felt that you didn't negotiate your value?
Yes. So let me say the first 10 years of my career, I was a prosecutor. So I prosecuted, rapes, murders, etc. And that was not a situation where I was required to, nor could I say, this is what I charge. I was a
Yeah.
salaried employee of the state of Maryland. When I left that position, that was day one of the entrepreneurship, because if I didn't get somebody through the door, I didn't make any money. And I didn't get to buy and didn't get to go on vacation and so on and so forth. So I would say that there was one particular case that had been referred to me by a friend, and I was learning how to recognize you have to talk about money. If you want me, you have to pay for me. And I didn't know how to do that yet. And so I handled this case for this individual. He didn't pay me. The person who referred him to me weeks later said, Linda, did so and so come to you? Yes, he did. I took care of it. Did he pay you? And I had this moment where I kind of broke out into a sweat and I thought, do I tell the truth or do I say, yes, he paid me? And I thought to myself, damn it, this isn't going to happen again because I'm not working for free. So that was a moment where, because of who sent me, if I said, no, he didn't pay me, I was embarrassed because this was a heavy hitter. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to let this happen anymore. So that was a moment when I realized you have to be able to talk about money. Certainly, as time went on and I became more experienced in what I do, I developed a reputation in what I do. It got easier and easier to do it. But that was the moment I said, this is not going to happen again. And that was many, many years ago. And my confidence, if you will, was talking about money and recognizing if you want me, you have to pay for me.
I
Just
love,
gets more solid and more solid over time.
I can relate to that so well because, well, for 30 some years, I owned health clubs. And even though you're charging, I'm not asking for the money
Mm-hmm.
directly.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I sold them in 2019 and I started making my side gig, my main gig, it was a lot about how much do you charge for your speaking gigs? How much do you charge for your coaching, your workshop?
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself wanting to apologize, like, oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm on the high end. What the heck? And I got a lot of questions about that. So, because I even experienced, and it took a beat, dear Linda, I'm almost thinking I need to hire, I'm with her, hire someone to tell people what I charge. Every time I tell someone, if I see the look on their face, like, oh my God, that much, I find myself making excuses. And even if I don't, my face tell the one guy said, well, your face tells the whole story that you really don't think you're worth it. Please help. How can I overcome this?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and especially a service. I find that this is more applicable to service rather than selling stuff,
Yeah.
right? So certainly I've had people say to me, what do you charge? And a piece of advice that I would give to anybody who's listening is, I don't care what you do, have a price list. This is not for publication. It's not for anybody else. It's for you. So that when somebody says to you, how much will you charge for such and such? And maybe it's a flat fee. I mean, I'm an hourly person. That's how I operate, but I request retainers. Um, have already a price list in your mind so you don't hesitate. So you're not sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, what can they afford? If I say this number, they're going to walk out. This is what I do, and this is what I charge for it, so that you're delivering that number with authority. You're not sounding like, well, let's open a negotiation with this number or that number. People also, when they react, and sometimes they do it verbally, sometimes it's their face. And I might say, now look, I'm higher than other people. I recognize there may be people who offer a lower rate than I do, but feel free to check me out. Feel free to ask around. I've been doing this for 45 years, and it may be that my rate is higher, but I guarantee you that I can do something more quickly, more efficiently, right, than somebody who doesn't have the experience I have. And while they may have a lower rate, it will take them longer to do it than it will take me to do it. And I had a mentor. I was so fortunate, Sandy, as a very young lawyer, to have a mentor who was just, he was the most amazing thing. But anyway, he used to say to me, Linda, you're one of the best kept secrets around. So here's what you should do. Stand in front of the mirror. I wish I had a hand mirror in my hand. I've got them in this house. And hold it up and say, that will be $5,000. And keep doing it until your face doesn't change. You don't break out into a sweat. You don't look nervous. You're not opening a negotiation. Get comfortable with saying it. And then you have people who say, wow, gee, I can't afford that. That's a lot of money. And that's when you say, well, if your circumstances change, please feel free to come back to me.
Oh, I like that.
Because, by the way, I don't say this. I'm not your banker. I don't love you. I'm not going to finance your particular issue. And it's
Oh,
very interesting to me that when you say that to people, it's not uncommon for people to say, oh, okay, well, maybe I can go to my sister and borrow money. Well, that's where your head should have been in the first place. You're not borrowing money from me. And people do come back sometimes.
yeah.
And they come back after perhaps they've had somebody at a lower rate who hasn't maybe done it the way it should have been done initially. Well, that ends up costing people more money when you have to go
Yeah.
in and fix something. So I have
Oh, you
perhaps
know what?
a little off course here. Forgive me.
That's all right, Linda. Hold on 1 second. I know I'm going to have to pause it. Believe it or not, somebody is at the door.
At the door, bringing you. Okay.
Okay, Linda, I just want you to know, I want to hear that last bit because I did pause for the first time, I think, in 15 years because I was getting a wine delivery from my aunt from Italy. I thought that was worth stopping, Linda.
Well, I mean, I feel very special that I'm the only one you've ever paused with, but I'm not so special since it's wine from Italy, which is amazing. Hmm.
Oh my God, you crack me up. The thing is that when you're going through everything, and I'm looking at all the questions to women, the women that send in these questions are highly successful women. I mean, we're talking they're already playing big. They've taken risks. They've faced fears. They've overcome obstacles. And still, the one woman I saw her I spoke at an event yesterday, and the one woman goes, I have to ask for money? Why is it still so difficult for us to ask and talk about what we charge? I don't understand it. And these are people that are already doing well.
I don't know why it's hard, but I acknowledge that it's hard. And there was some place in my career, and I can't point to a particular moment in time where, for whatever reason, I was able to get past that. Now, maybe one of the things that was holding me back, and maybe it holds back other people, is fear of losing a client. If I
Yeah.
say the wrong number, am I going to lose this client? So, but examine that thought for a moment. If you lose a client over paying for a 1 hour consultation, for instance, I don't want that client anyway, because I'm going to be fighting that client for money throughout the engagement. So, what am I really losing? Um, if there is somebody who is pushing back on you at that initial stage, about whatever it is you need financially to engage with that person, how is the rest of the matter going to go? Is it going to be somebody you're going to continue to chase? Is it somebody who's going to stiff you? Well, so what are you really losing? You're losing a headache.
Mhm.
You're losing frustration. And maybe that switch went off in my head that made it easier for me to be rather bold, if you will, about the money piece. And I mean it when I say I don't negotiate it. I really don't. And again, I do mostly hourly work. When I did criminal defense, those were flat fee kinds of matters, and that's the place where maybe you get a little more effort to negotiate. But you know, again, remember why somebody's talking to you. You know how to do something they don't know how to do, or you can do it better than they can do it, or they don't want to do it. So if you just look at it from those perspectives, look how valuable you are to that person. I don't want to do it, but she will. I don't know how to do it, but she does. And she can do it better than me. So for that luxury, if you will, that may not be a good word, you got to pay for it. And
So go ahead.
I was going to say, and I do think, and it sounds a little crazy, standing in front of the mirror and saying, that's what it will be, and watching what your face does,
Yeah.
tell your face to be quiet. Tell your face to match what you're saying. That's what it will be. Not a lot of words, by the way. You know, sometimes people over explain sometimes. This is what you want from me. This is what you pay me. It's a matter of fact.
All right. First question about the mirror.
Yes.
I totally am into that. I used to bring mirrors until they would break on the airplane when I would do presentations. So they would look in the mirror and say things. I got that. I don't know, you know who Louise Hayes is, but I remember her saying, do mirror work. And I
Hmm.
constantly am standing for it. It makes a huge difference. Plus, you notice your own reactions.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, yeah, that doesn't look confident. But I did have a question from a young lady. She's starting out, she's 28. And she said, what do you do if, okay, you have a lot of clients, you're good, you're good, you're good, but then you hit a low? It makes her want to lower her prices, even though she knows she shouldn't because she's scared.
Then I think you do something else in the way of your marketing. And I sort of hate that word because I think marketing and networking to some extent has negative connotations. But I think that's when you do some self-help. And maybe you reach out to somebody who's been your client and just check in. Maybe you join an organization and I am all about family and I'm all about doing things that make me feel good. And there's significant reason for that. But if you're involved like I am in a lot of community organizations and philanthropic organizations, that's great. But if you're not, how about if you do it? And it gives you an opportunity. I mean, I tell this to young people all the time. You probably should join some kind of trade organizations. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I have found that the best marketing is when you are engaged in something that you like. You're there because of a passion, right? And you
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
know and you get to meet people. And guess what happens? They get to trust you, not as a
yeah,
lawyer,
yeah.
but as somebody who's going to get engaged in leadership, is going to do what she says she's going to do, is going to start a meeting on time, is going to follow through with things, right? And all of a sudden, gee, when somebody needs a lawyer, who do I trust who I see all the time? Oh, well, it's Linda. And it's a good investment. It's a long-term investment. But first of all, you're engaging in getting people to know you so they trust you. I trust you. You're the one I'm going to call if I have a need that falls within your.
I got it.
So that's my advice for when it's low. Get up from your desk and get out. And because everything's relationships in business,
Yep.
everything is relationships. So if somebody knows you and respects you and trusts you, they're going to call you before the person who's all over Facebook advertising, here's what I do for a living, or LinkedIn.
So I just want to back up so they heard it right. You wouldn't lower your prices. You would stay with those prices and figure out how to bring in more business.
Yes,
Besides, because going down that slippery slope, whoa. Ooh.
yes, that's right.
I remember when I first sold my clubs and I was doing different speaking engagements and workshops. I never had so many close friends in my entire life.
Hmm.
Like they were like, but we're friends.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced that or you have a family and friend discount. And I'm like, my whole business would have been 80% friends and family discount.
Well, it's interesting. There was a woman who I knew but hadn't seen for a little while who reached out and wanted to do, let me say this. Her message started with, remember me. Okay, that's very telling. Remember me? And of course, I did remember her. And I would like to talk to you about something that's happening in my life. And I responded, of course, I remember you. Hope things are going well. I need some information to run conflicts. And what we would do is set up a consultation. And here's what the fee is. Never heard from her again. So she came to this communication saying, I'm so distant from you. Do you remember who I am? Right? By the same token, had some expectation that because she was a, let me call it friend, quote unquote, that there wouldn't be a charge associated with that. I run a business, and maybe everybody should remember this. I run a business. You want me, you pay me, right? And my business happens to be that I engage in the practice of law. I do not look at myself as a lawyer and I can help you and I can fix things and I can get you into your stuff, but I can get you out of it. My first way of looking at any kind of engagement professionally is I run a business, and a business means I sell a service and you pay me for that service. And if people maybe think about what they do in that manner, perhaps that would be helpful. Not here's my occupation, first of all. It's I run a business, and here is the nature of the business I'm engaged in.
So then maybe this answers this next woman's question, but I'm going to let you say it. Dear Linda, I'm an executive coach. I do very well. But lately, everyone has said to me when they're calling me for free advice, oh, I thought you just wanted to help people. I do want to help people, but this is also how I make a living. How should I answer them? Because I feel like there's so many people calling me for free advice. It slipped in there, but I think it's at least 10 hours a week.
Ooh. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you don't give free advice. And I will just put you into sort of my world. I do a lot of divorce work. Can you imagine how much free advice people think they should get other than what happens
Yes.
on the street corner with people who have no idea what they're talking about?
Yeah.
And I fix that, if you will, in a first communication. Um, you know, my advice is not for free. So I use the word consultation. I schedule the time. I express what the rate is for that time. And I set up the credit card payment in advance, which kind of turns the table on that free advice thing. And the other thing I don't do, and I have the luxury, if you will, of being able to do that. I don't pick up the phone if I don't know you. That's how you get in trouble. And I've gotten in trouble before. You pick
Yeah.
up the phone, and the next thing you know, you're in the middle of a conversation you can't get out of, which again is a whole skill set of its own. I do my best not to let myself get into that situation where it's turning into free advice. So I kind of put some arm's length in there. And that arm's length is my assistant will get some information from you. We will schedule a consultation that elevates it from, gee, I call on the phone and somebody at the other end picks up and talks to me. Very different message is being sent. Um, and maybe that would help get you out of that free advice situation, because the only way they're getting to talk to you is after we have scheduled a time, set a price, set up a mechanism for how you get paid. And 10 hours a week is entirely too much. You have much more value than that. You are probably very giving with your time and advice, and I am too in a lot of settings, right? I mean, I'll do talks to anybody who wants to talk. I've bought so many mirrors you can't imagine that I give out during my talks. But that only goes so far. If you want to talk about your life and your story and get free advice, there's no such thing. You have to pay for. I hope that helps.
Answer that when they said, I thought you liked helping people.
I love to help people, but this is my business.
Oh my
That's
God.
a crummy comment from somebody to make.
Isn't it? I
That's
think
a
it's, yeah, yeah.
crummy comment. I thought you liked to help people. Okay, well, how about this? How about if you go to work for free tomorrow because you like to help people too? How about if you do that? Do you work for free? I don't think so.
Oh my God.
Would
You
you
know,
want?
I think every businesswoman should be required to take a course in this before they start in business.
Mhm. It would save a lot of time, which I think is why I'm very willing to share, if you will, this kind of information, because it takes years to learn it,
Yeah.
right? Well, if
Yeah.
you can learn it a little quicker because something I said resonates, I'm happy for you.
Did you ever lose a client because you stood your ground and you were so happy you did?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I've lost clients because of money, and I remind myself, okay, that means I'm not fighting them for the next year, for money, or having somebody question everything you do. And, there's a lot of pain that goes with a client who doesn't appreciate your value. I've also had people come back to me who have, gone and messed something up because of the choices they made. And boy, they listen to you then when you say, this is how much it's going to cost you, and I need you to do what I'm telling you to do. Um, so, yes, definitely. And another, you got to trust your gut, a lot of signals. So, again, in my life, if I am a second lawyer, or God forbid, a third lawyer or fourth lawyer somebody is coming to, because I had one, two, three, and four, and they didn't do it right, or they didn't do it my way, or they charged too much, or whatever. Boy, those are all signs that make you say, I don't think this is going to work.
Mm.
And I've said that once or twice too. Sometimes you can tell and again, the nature of what I do is very much advice driven and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. And you hope you can resolve it. But if you can't, you got to go try a case. And everything you do all builds to that. And you get signals sometimes. If somebody is questioning everything you say, questioning every piece of advice you give, and people can ask questions, but that's a sign. We've got a gut that we need to trust.
Mm. You mentioned, and I've heard this before too, about being able to say no.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking that you've become very good at it if your family is first in your life and doing all that you do. Because when others were looking at it, they're like, how does she put family first if she's doing all that?
saying no is important, but I think the other element of that is setting boundaries. And I am pretty good at setting boundaries. Um, so let's start with the basics. As far as I'm concerned, it's a basic. Somebody walks into my office and wants to see me, chances are the answer is going to be no, because I don't want that person thinking that he or she can walk in anytime he wants, and then I'm going to be available to that person because my time is valuable, right? As we know. Somebody calls me on the phone, often I hear, I just have a quick question. I end up saying, this is not a quick question. We need to schedule a time to have a conversation about this, perhaps. Some people believe that they need to be available 24/7. I don't believe that. There is nothing most times that I can do for you on a weekend when a court is closed and you have an emergency. So I don't give people a home phone number. I have never done that. I won't say never, but as a course of conduct,
Yeah.
I don't do that. I work like you work. I have business hours. And when it gets to be 6 o'clock at night or whatever, I'm tired. I start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So just because you feel like talking at 8 o'clock at night doesn't mean that I'm going to. So I set boundaries. And I try to do that from the very beginning of the relationship. You want to talk about your matter? I'm happy to do it, but we're going to set a time. We're going to set a location. This is what it's going to cost you. The other thing that'll happen a lot is I'll get an email that'll say, I have a quick question. No. There's not a lot of quick questions in my world, but those types of communications signal in my mind, well, you can answer this with a word or two, and so anybody could, and you're not going to charge me for this. But there's a lot of things that I'll answer and I'll say, this requires a discussion. How about this day, this time, whatever. I mean, I know my own strengths about what I'm best, which is in the morning. Doesn't mean I don't do calls in the afternoon and so forth, but it's about setting boundaries. Um, and it's a hard thing to do, but it's an important thing to do. So I do my best not to work on the weekends. I'm always doing something, but I'm
Yeah.
not communicating with clients necessarily. I look at emails 24/7. I really do, but I don't answer them. So if I get a, 8, 9 o'clock at night message
Okay.
that isn't urgent, first thing in the morning, I will respond to it, but I don't respond to it 8 or 9 at night. I don't want to invite somebody to think that this is a course of interaction that I find to be acceptable. So I set boundaries that enable me to hopefully control the schedule, that permit me
Wow.
to do the things I need to do and want to do in a manner that I find acceptable. I mean, I'm a very busy person, like everybody on this call probably, but I can manage that because of, most times, the ability to set boundaries and set schedules. And I live by a calendar. I don't know where I'm supposed to be tomorrow, but if it's on the calendar, I'll be there
Yeah, me
and
too.
I'll be on time.
So what I'm hearing, what I'm getting out of this, which is really important, and I was just telling a colleague of mine, with setting those boundaries, you're also very clear up front of what the client can expect from you
Absolutely.
so that they know they're not going to get a call back late at night or on the weekend, that
Mhm.
you'll, deal with it during the week. And they also know that you're not going to spend a lot of time answering those emails.
Right.
So they
Yep.
already know up front what to expect from you. But the time they get from you, like you said at the beginning, you know you're really good at what you do, and you're not going to take as long as others to do it.
Right. Yep. Well, and something you said just also triggered something for me, and that is reasonable expectations, which I would encourage everybody who's engaged in this call today, and I don't know what you do, but whatever it is you do, your client, your customer has to have the same expectation that you do about what the deliverable is. And, we're talking about pricing. We're talking about, you want me to do this project. I agree to do it for X amount of dollars. Write it down. Because if that client thinks you're supposed to do 10 things, and as far as you're concerned, you're supposed to do 9, you're going to have a problem somewhere along the line when it comes to payment, or it comes to somebody critiquing what you did or didn't do. She
Yeah.
didn't do what I asked her to do. Well, wait a minute. And it sets reasonable expectations. That's not always an easy thing to do either, like talking about money, but it's that, okay, you are a business woman first and foremost. What is the project? Identify it, put it in writing, get the pricing. But I will say this, being a person who charges hourly, it's I certainly would get people who say to me, well, how many hours is it going to be?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that.
I can't tell you, is usually how I start. I can tell you that if the other side's cooperative, it's going to be this and that. I can tell you that if we can do it by way of agreement, it'll be less. I can tell you that if they fight me on discovery and we have to go to trial, it's going to be absolutely out of control. The other thing I have people say to me is, what percentage do you put on this of us winning? I will not engage in that. What I will say is, especially if it's a trial, that's the place where you get it the most. Judges are people. They have good days and bad days. I don't know what people are going to say on the stand, even though we think we know what somebody's going to say. So once I do my work for you and I sit down, it is out of our hands. I can tell you that. I will do my best. You will be prepared. You will not get a question from me you're not ready for. No witness will be on the stand for us who I haven't talked to. So I think
Yeah.
that people, for purposes of make a decision, like to hear percentages and like to hear certainty. In a lot of occupations, we can't give that. All we can do is sort of share factors, perhaps, that hopefully help set reasonable expectations. There are people out there, I know there are, who say, you got a 100% chance we're going to win this. And I think, ooh, I don't know that I've ever said that in my whole life, because there's a wild card involved in the process.
Yeah.
So,
No, I deal with that too. Like there's some clients I coach on performance, but they also want me to help them get speaking engagements. And they'll say, can you guarantee? No,
can't guarantee anything except my behavior, that you'll work hard, that I'll work hard, that we'll do our best. Yeah.
exactly. I knew this was going to happen. We're going to run out of time. So I just want to make sure I get this in because I love that you added this in. You have a sense of humor.
Mhm.
How has that helped you? Because I mean, in the legal world, what do you mean by have a sense of humor?
So I use these two examples actually that make me say that. One is, I was a prosecutor. I got married during my tenure as a prosecutor. I went to court in front of a judge. This was in the 80s. Went to court in front of a judge who was very cantankerous anyway, but in open court in front of everybody says, oh, you got married, didn't you? Yes, I did. You changed your name? Yes, I did. Well, how do you spell it? Well, why did you change your name? Well, what does he do? Is he a good man? And this is in an open courtroom being recorded. Totally improper. Totally improper.
Oh my,
Okay. Second example was, I was defending a criminal case, and I was in a county that I don't go to quite as regularly, and the prosecutor and the judge were in the judge's chambers. And they were talking about my case. Totally wrong. Absolutely wrong. And as I walked in, I hear the judge saying to the prosecutor, what is it she wants? And I thought, ass. And I said, well, if you're talking about me, what I want is such and such. So I use those two examples of how you can make decisions about how you handle things, right? I could have gone to judicial disabilities about that one judge. I could have done the same thing with the second one. I could have made a complaint. I could have cried. I could have yelled and screamed. I could have done all kinds of things. Instead, my approach was, what asses? And instead rolled with it. And I think those decisions that we make, again, this is where I say you have to have a sense of humor. You I could have handled that so many different ways, but some of the ways you handle things will do you damage,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to allow myself to be labeled as she who did such, she who did such. I'm going to handle it myself on my terms. I'm not going to back down, but I'm not going to be that person who makes it worse by the decision I make about where to take it next. So to me, that's you got to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I
These,
agree.
these things happened so many years ago, but they're still relevant and they're still in my mind.
If I could tell you stories about what my husband, he goes into court too. And even
Yeah.
just recently, he told me one of the female judges in front of everyone was talking about humidity in Florida. And my husband has a shaved head. And he goes, well, Eric, I guess you don't have to worry about that, like noticing that he has no hair. And
Yeah,
the same female judge, a week later, they had to go up, approach the bench, grabbed his tie and said, "Ooh, I really love that tie on you," and started petting his tie. And he goes, "You just have to go with it because,"
like,
and like he said, roll with it. And well, Judge, I'm glad you like the tie. Now let's get back. And the other lawyers were like, "You should have said something." He's like, "It's not worth it. Not worth it."
exactly. What does it accomplish? It just ends up hurting you in the long run.
And he won the case, so it was good. All right, we got to get these two things in here.
Okay.
So, what is there anything that you do every day or before you're going to court or have a difficult conversation? Is there anything you do, Linda, to get your mind into it, your head in the game, to come from a powerful position?
I can say that when I go to court, what I have to do to be in the place, in the headspace I want to be, is to not touch anything that day. By the day before, I've got everything put together. It is packed in my cases, and I don't touch it. And
Huh?
what I try to do is allow myself to come down and let the important things rise to the top naturally. And I am super big on preparation. And by time I get to that point where I put stuff away and not touch it again, and on my drive, I let myself think about what, my opening is going to be, or if I'm heading to have a difficult conversation. And I've had many in my managed positions. I have fired a lot of people
Sure, you have.
or warned a lot of people. The firing conversations aren't as long as the warning conversations, but just kind of allow myself to kind of rehearse it. I try to anticipate what issues are going to come up. I very seldom ever write a script for anything. Even if I'm doing a presentation, I write words. But if you write a script, your mind doesn't work as well. You don't allow yourself to hear what's being said or to react as well. So I would say that that's really what I do prepare for sort of the tougher, bigger aspects of a day is to think in terms of concepts maybe,
Yeah,
and what might come up and how might I handle this?
I got it.
Because I know how I want it to end. So it's what do you put in place so that it ends in the place where you want it to end?
Oh, I like that. You know the outcome you want. You
Mhm.
know how. Gotcha.
Yep. How do I get there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Work backwards. All right. So tomorrow morning, you can whisper in every woman's ear. What's one sentence that you would whisper that, let me make sure this is what they want this week, that would help them stand up for how much they're valued? One sentence that you could say to them so they could be reminded of how much their value is.
Just watch me. I'm
I
not, I'm not,
didn't see that coming.
I'm not going to tell you how good I am. Just watch me.
All right, ladies, you heard her. Linda, is there anything else that we didn't get in that you want to tell women around the world and men that support us?
Well, let's not underestimate the men that support us. So,
Holler.
my darling husband, who I lost years ago to cancer, uh, there would be discussions, about taking over the world, or he'd say something about us taking over the world, and I'd say, babe, it's already happened. And he would say, I know that. Just save a place for me, will you? So, these men who support us are tremendous, tremendous. They understand who we are. They respect who we are. They're proud of us,
Yep.
and they'll do anything for us. So,
Thank you for that. I love that. Now,
yep,
how can they find you if they want to work with Reach You? Where are you?
I'm an attorney with Offit Kerman, OFFITKURMAN. .com, which is a law firm. If you go into Offit Kerman and search my name, it'll take you directly to me. I do a podcast called, Real Talk, Real Growth, that I'm going to say is somewhat similar to our conversation here in terms of, who do I know in my wheelhouse that I can talk to share things to help make us all better. So I would say those are the two easiest ways to reach me.
And I love that. I didn't know about that. Real talk,
Mhm.
real growth. You got to look her up. I'm sure it's awesome.
Thank you. Maybe you'll
All
come
right.
to me one day.
I will. All right, my hey, got something to say. Women around the world and men that support us.
Yes.
Please, please, you know how much I love you. I feel like the most spoiled person on earth. You're so good to me. I appreciate all your support. I feel like I attract the most amazing humans. Linda and I would love for you to share this, like it, rate it, and subscribe. And until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Thanks, Linda, and toodles.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.